The case file number for this is 3MTA3. The suspect's name, A.D. Rock, Mr. We are here today because the suspect asked to be heard in regards to his arrest for armed robbery. There is a state lawyer present, but Mr. Rock decided to speak for himself. Well, why don't you just have a seat, son?
Sir, are these really necessary? I mean, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the yellow, I think I pulled it off, but chains? Really? What year is it?
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Um, Actually, yes. Breakfast this morning was kind of bland, and there's a guy in my cell who keeps staring at me every time I poop.
Well, pleasure talking to you, son.
You do not like jokes. Okay.
Nope, I do not.
Not a problem. Right. So, here's this little story I've got to tell about three bad brothers that you think you know so well. It all started way back in history with me, MCA, and that crazy guy Mike D. So, I have this little horsey, right? It's named Paul Revere. And last Friday morning, it was just me and my horsey and a quart of beer riding across the land. Kicking up sand, the usual. The sheriff's posse was on my back because, I'm in demand. Anyway, one lonely beastie I be, out there by myself without nobody. The sun was beating down on my baseball hat, the air was getting hot, my beer was getting flat. And while I was looking for a girl, I ran into a guy, and his name is MCA. And I said, howdy, and he said, hi. And then he straight away started telling this crazy story about being on the run for 4 days, and that he was dying of thirst. And while he was dying of thirst, the brew was in my hand, and now he is on my tip. And his voice did sound hoarse, and his throat was dry, so he asked me for a sip. So he said, can I get some? And I said, you can't get none. Because why? I don't share my beer with anyone. That's nasty. And while I still had a chance to run, he dead ass pulled out his shotgun. And sir, he was quick on the draw. Like, I thought I'd be dead. And he put the gun to my head, and this is what he said. He said, now, my name is MCA, and I've got a license to kill. I think you know what time it is, right? It's time to get ill. Now, what do we have here? An outlaw and his beer? I run this land. Do you understand? Do I make myself clear? So we stepped into the wind. He had a gun, I had a grin. And if you think this story is over, it is ready to begin. Now, I've got the gun, and you've got the brew. I'll give you exactly two choices of what you can do. It's not a tough decision, as you can see. I can blow you away, or you can ride with me. Now what am I supposed to do? Die in the desert over a beer? No. So obviously I said, I'll ride with you if you can get me to the border. The sheriff's after me for what I did to his daughter. So I was just bragging about that a little bit, about doing it like this, doing it like that, something about a wiffle ball bat. So anyway, I told him that I too am on the run and that the cops had my gun, and that I thought right about now it was time to be having some fun, because I told him that I'm also known as the King at Rock, that is my name, and that I knew the fly spot where they had the champagne. Because I thought he's about to kill me over a drink. Why not go to a bar where there's all the drinks in the world, so I'll buy myself a bit more time?
So, that's how you ended up at the saloon.
Exactly. So, we rode for 6 hours and then we hit the spot. And when we walked into that saloon, the beat was pumping and the girlies were hot. So I got a little distracted from my plan. But as we walked in, there was this guy staring at us like he knew who we are. So obviously we took the empty spot next to him at the bar. And as we sit down, MCA goes, hey, do you know this kid? And I said I didn't, but I am 100% convinced that he did. So we sit down, right? And we're not even done with our first round of drinks. And this kid leans over and he says, "Guys, get ready, because this ain't funny. My name is Mike D and I'm about to get money." And if you can't already tell by his crazy, weird European accent, that guy was nuts. So he jumped up on the bar, pulled out his jammy, aimed it at the sky, and he yelled, "Stick him up!" and let two fly. And I mean, at this point, shit's going upside down. Hands went up and people hit the floor, and he wasted two kids that ran for the door. So those two kids that were shot, that was Mike D. Cold-blooded, shot him in the back. And he yells, "I'm Mike D and I get the respect. Your cash and your jewelry is what I expect." And I mean, at this stage, shit went upside down. I mean, I'm sitting here, and sir, I walked into this bar with a crazy madman who has a shotgun in his pocket, who was about to shoot me because of a beer in the desert a few hours ago. And now, there's a crazy European guy who just jumped onto the bar who's robbing the place. He just shot two people, and I'm thinking, excuse my language, I am fucked. And at this moment, I look over to MCA because he's my ace, and he is 100% with it. You can just see it in his eyes. This is what he was waiting for. This is exactly what he wanted. And I'm thinking, okay. How the hell am I going to get out of this? Because if I don't do anything, they're going to shoot me, just like that guy just shot two kids. So I'm thinking, what's like the least fucked up thing I can do and still not be deemed like a dangerous criminal? But it's also fucked up enough for them to say, "Oh, he's cool, he's with us." So I grabbed the piano player and I punched him in the face. And now the piano player's out, the music stopped, and then his boy had beef, so he got dropped. And at this point, I'd really like to point out the piano player's boy attacked me. So when I knocked him out, that was in self-defense. So yes, I do admit to punching the piano player. But in the end, it was Mike D who grabbed the money and MCA who snatched all the gold. All I did was I grabbed a nice looking girlie and a beer that's cold. So just to point this out, Mike D grabbed the money, MCA snatched the gold. I only grabbed a girl and a cold beer. A very attractive girl. So, if we're talking about armed robbery, armed, yes, they were, I wasn't. Robbery, yes, they took stuff, I didn't. So yes, there was an armed robbery, but I had absolutely nothing to do with it. All I am doing right now is I'm sitting here and I can't stand it because I know, and here's the clue, they planned it. But that's why we're here. We're going to set it straight this Watergate. So, with this statement, I'll leave it to the hands of justice. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you've made a pretty good case, son. Having heard you, I think it's reasonable to say, I think we'll let you go.
Wait, for real?
Hell no.
You do like jokes. That's great.